Romain, thank you so much for joining us. I'll leave this up here for a minute while we do quick intros. But do you want to kind of give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Grant, for inviting me today. So, like you mentioned, so I'm a senior product manager here at GitGuardian. And just to give you some context of who we are, if you don't know us already. So GitGuardian, it's a software automates secret detection, and we do also remediation. So when I talk about secrets, think about an AWS key, like an OpenAI key, any kind of secrets, which we use every day on our daily life, and also generate password, for example. So we are the #1 security app on the GitHub marketplace. We've got free plans. We also are free for small teams. I think it's like up to 25 people. And we have so if you don't have any tools to prevent secret leaks, you can check us out on Google. You can find just GitGuardian. So back to me, so product manager at GitGuardian. So my main focus is the self-hosted part, because our software runs as a SaaS, as a lot of software today. But we do offer a version of our software for on-prem customers, which are either deploying our solution in a kind of a really true on-prem environment, but also in the public cloud. So that's kind of my focus of area in the company. We have a small team. We have like front-end, back-end, DevOps, QA engineers. I say small, but actually it's pretty, it's a decent sized team, really focusing on that. And yeah, so we've been working with Replicated for, I think, a couple of years, Grant.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's been a great partnership. And yeah, I'm looking forward to share more with you today.
Great. Yeah. Very excited to have you here. So let's go ahead and get started and kind of talk about how you use Replicated, right? So I think you mentioned that, self-hosted is actually an important part, but like, do you think that self-hosted is core to your business? Is this like a strategic part of how you see your customer engagement and delivery?
I mean, it's interesting when you look at the number of customers we have today. Without giving too much details, I can tell you we don't have a lot of self-hosted customers, but even though we don't have many of those, they are the one representing a good chunk of our revenues. So what I'm going with that is like a lot of the bigger customer, big enterprise accounts, they don't want to go with a SaaS solution. They want to have our software more. They want more control over the software deployed. And like I said earlier, we detect secrets. So for some customers, this cannot be done on the SaaS side. It has to be done on-prem in their sometimes air gap environment type of thing. So it is very core of our business, having that solution for some of those customers who don't want to have who don't want to use our SaaS version, essentially.
Sure.
So yeah, super core.
Great. I love it. And so, I think that you've been pretty hands-on with Replicated, and particularly around a lot of the new feature sets. And so, I have like a little list here, but can you kind of talk about which kind of new features and core features you've been using recently?
Yeah, I mean, besides the core feature, which is like the distribution of the software via your proxy, so that's one of the core feature. License management, one of the core feature. But more recently, what we've been using the most is as a custom telemetry feature. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it on the call. Highly recommend to look into it. So basically, when before we use that feature, like it was maybe 3 months ago, those customers of us which are self-hosted were basically black box, right? I didn't have much information about how they were using the product, and then some very specific product metric which we care. So I'm talking about like beyond like just a version, beyond the Kubernetes version which we already had. It's just like this feature really help us to get more insight into how our customer are using our software. So that's one of the most recent feature we've been using.
Yeah. And so what are like a couple of examples of metrics that you're sending up for your team's consumption?
Yeah, so a couple examples, like for example, it's gonna sound very basic, but like just a login, right? Like the user login. Just for us, it helps us to know if our software is used, like how many users log in every day or for the last 30 days. So it kind of like help us to measure engagement, right? So that's one of
BAU, MAU, that's a really important part for
yeah.
any kind of software usage for sure.
Yeah, and also some very specific features because we offer a platform. We do secret detection, remediation, and some other key kind of other feature around secret. And then, obviously in the SaaS version, we know exactly where people click, what do they do, when. But so for self-hosted, of course, it's much harder, right? So we were able to very like meticulously like choose areas of key specific metric and then report some usage on those. So, help the sales team, help the support team, helps the product team to really understand more how our customers are using our software for the on-prem solution.
And then you're using that data and you're exporting it. So we do provide some visualization. So on every customer record, we'll show the latest values as well as like a little historical graph. But I think you're also exporting using our kind of, pretty comprehensive data export to pipe this into your BI tools. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Because the founder portal is great because, for like ad hoc, I want to check one customer because I'm troubleshooting, or I don't know, I want to kind of focus on one. But what we've been doing at GitGuardian is also like trying to like do more correlation between different database. And so we use Snowflake, like maybe some of you guys on the call. And so the goal is to send all that data, the data from Replicated, which we use the API. I think the vendor API, I don't remember the V3 maybe, I think. But anyway, we use the API to pull every day the metric from Replicated and then import that into Snowflake. And that allow us to easily like build dashboard. We use different tools for dashboarding and correlate as well with other database. Like we use Zendesk, for example, for tickets and HubSpot for CRM. So, we can easily like build a custom dashboard for a customer and also aggregate metrics and see like, all right, for all of those customers which are in Europe, here is the data, and we can have like helps to take decision on the day-to-day and manage your customer, right?
Yeah, so you're getting sort of like that, individual visibility into the customer, and you can maybe bring in some other data from other sources together, and then you can also roll it up and see like how many, daily active users do you have across all of your self-hosted customers, and you kind of know those metrics and see if that's growing. So I think that's exactly kind of how we imagined this feature when we built it, and we hoped that teams would use it to really think about driving end customer success, right? Like that's ultimately what we want to do is enable the software vendors to make their customers more successful. And so, knowing who's using what is a really key part of that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's interesting because, my team implemented the feature and then obviously like we have like, I don't know how many squad, but, we have a few different team of development focusing on different area of the product. And then like it was last month, like one of the other team were able to implement their own metric. So other product manager at GitGuardian are now adding their own metric for their own area of the software. So we kind of booted up the project. And then, we build like some sort of tech doc. Anybody at GitGuardian can follow, any developers can follow and then kind of implement their metric. So it is really cool, actually, so.
That's great. I love hearing that. And then are you using, one of the features we added to both for the standard telemetry, which is the stuff that's baked in, just like Kubernetes version and upgrades and these things, as well as for custom metrics changes is notifications. Are you using any of the Slack or email notifications to kind of know when those that values are changing?
So yeah, we actually turned that feature on like not too long ago, like maybe couple months ago. And it's funny because before I turned that on for all our customers, I was a little scared. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get like spam,
Yeah.
But turned out not really, because the cool thing with Replicated, what you guys did implement is like you only communicate on a change. Like
Right.
I'm sending you a daily metric, like for example, like I don't know, number of users is 10. If tomorrow is 10, I don't want to know it's still 10, right? I just want to know when it goes up and down. So that kind of reduces spam. So it doesn't really give us too much spam, but I like the idea of like not having to connect. Like, so, we work in Slack, everybody works in Slack. So, have a notification, and once a day you kind of have a look, and you can be like, all right, oh, this customer just upgraded yesterday, and then you kind of know, or like, oh, this customer did this and that. So it kind of helps to be proactive and understand more what's going on there. Sales team love it.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly why we built it, right? Just to give you more insight and kind of like, and I'm glad to hear. I think there's more work we can do to make sure it doesn't get noisy, right? Like I think to your point, kind of spam and noise is always something that we're trying to make sure that we're working through. So maybe it's thresholds or something else. So it's an area where we know that the notifications. I think I'm glad you're getting value from it, and, but I think it's something that we still we want to make kind of adjust to make sure it's even better.
Yeah, and one of the important thing as well with notification, like I had to enable click manually on each of our customers to turn that on. It would have been great to just like check one, select all. I want notification for all of it because I want for all of it. I don't, So
yeah, right now the notifications are kind of instant specific, right? So for every instance, right? And so I think one of the team is looking at like how do we start to give more notifications around the customer record or then even an account level, right? So I really believe that notifications are an important part of kind of like, I don't know, just like table stakes for good, SaaS applications recently. So we're trying to think more about like, what can we do to help make that information available, put it at your fingertips so you know what that feed of what's happening.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cool. You're using one of our kind of a smaller feature, but something that like, I know we were excited about launching, which is like license tags and instance tagging.
Yeah, that helps like for specifically because we export that data, into Snowflake to be able to kind of like identify which instance is what, the instance ID is great, but it's a bunch of IDs, so it's hard to know what they are. So yeah, totally, we use tags. Not too long ago, but it's been great to have that for sure.
Yeah, and that's just like, on the customer page, the instances, you can just like add, instead of having like a UID that's, some 6 characters, it's like we just let you to like write a little tag in there, rename the instance or whatever you want to do. It's still all searchable by those UIDs, but now you kind of have this like more human readable way.
Yeah, and I just want to add on that, like it's super useful, like specifically when you have customers who have like staging and prod, which is like maybe half of our customer. And you always wonder before, like, well, which one is which, So, when they upgrade, you're like, so if you don't know, so that's kind of a cool use case.
Yeah, exactly. We see that was kind of a common pattern for us, was staging and prod was a pretty, kind of common thing that we saw. And so we want to just make that available so folks can change it. And I think at some point we're also exploring being able to set that from the SDK so that you can actually like have customer, if there's something specific in the customer environment or about the installation, then you can set it there and then you kind of have the first version. Which brings me to the SDK, which you're also using. I think you were pretty early adopters in the SDK and our Helm install. Maybe you can talk a little bit about like why that is and how you see that and how that's working for you generally.
Yeah, so let's take a step back on the way our customer deploy our software. So initially, when we worked with Replicated, there was only one way to deploy the software. We use COTS, Kubernetes off the shelf, which is basically a kind of a UI where you can. I'm sure everybody is very familiar with COTS. So we use that to install the software. And then more recently, I think back in July last year, we implemented a different way to deploy the software, which is via Helm. So Helm, super popular tool for like more DevOpsy type of personas, people who are more like kind of like infrastructure as code type of people. They don't really like to do deployment or management through a UI. So we've offered that other way, which is actually really good because makes it easier for people to deploy the software in an automated way. And part of that, because we still need license management, we still need, like that feature I was telling you about metric, custom metric, mainly those two things actually. So for that reason, we are using the replicated SDK pod, which is running part of the Kubernetes deployment and help us with those two things. And then we've also added the pod to our COTS deployments because I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Grant, like this, all the license management and custom telemetry are going to be more, located on that replicated SDK type of service.
Yeah, we want the SDK to be kind of able to live anywhere, you know, and eventually in binary installs and in other places as well. But so the idea is just like that SDK will be kind of the foundation for a lot of the integration, whereas like we used to have you kind of talk to COTS, now you'll just talk to the SDK. That way your application is more portable and you can use different installation methods and not rely, you know, on some of the COTS and, you know, COTS experience. Because what we saw was that, to your point, more advanced end customers would have very specific and defined deployment pipelines that required Helm charts. And so, you know, as that became more of a requirement, we wanted to be able to provide the registry and the credentials and the licensing and the entitlements and then the telemetry. I think there's more to come for us to do here to really make this, you know, we actually integrate this as well with the compatibility matrix. So we're sending back some of that metadata about environments that you can actually create customer representative environments based on your installations, as well as, you know, I see us doing things with this to like kind of extend supportability, maybe help you build a little admin console to show release history and stuff like that. Some of those things live in the SDK today, but we're trying to think about what we can do to really power more, you know, successful and kind of easy to use Helm installs while not getting in the way of Helm. And the other thing that, you know, that is interesting about this feature is that we also understand that doing a Helm install with Replicated, you know, we're not really creating as much value, right? We're not providing the UI for the installation, and there's not like the built-in snapshots and all the configuration that we do, and there's not, you know, an underlying Kubernetes cluster that we're providing because the customer's providing it. And so these licenses are actually significantly less expensive per license. And so if you turn off COTS install for licenses and you just make them Helm charts, it goes to, you know, $50 a month instead of the $200 or $300 a month that most customers would be paying for most licenses. So really reduces the cost, because I think it's important for that cost to be associated with the value. And, you know, we want you to be able to say, hey, like, there's not as much value here, so we should pay a bit less, and hopefully deploy more and be able to spread this out everywhere.
And that's what happened with us. I mean, since we have that available, I think right now we have half of our customer deploying our solution with Helm.
Great.
Like it's crazy. I mean, it's really like people like that. You know, that's the way, you know, they deploy production application software on premise. And they've been very happy with the experience so far. Very happy. We've had tons of good feedback from those customers. So that's great to hear, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, as Replicated evolves, you know, we really want to embrace Helm more. We're getting more involved in the Helm community and making, you know, Helm a first-class kind of way to distribute applications. And then, you know, for customers that don't know much about Kubernetes, you know, we're talking about this later, but the curl installation today, but soon the embedded cluster solution will really simplify that and provide, you know, what Alex is going to talk about it for a while, so I won't cover it too much, but it will provide a great solution for folks that, you know, are like, I don't know much about Kubernetes. Can you just give me something to install on a VM? So.
Yeah, and even more than just for people who don't know about Kubernetes, for what we've been using more embedded cluster is like for POCs, proof of concept. Because you know, you want to get it a quick VM with, you know, with your software, so you can show the value and, you know, and get that win that engagement. And, you know, talking to the database guys, the Kubernetes guy, you know, like it can take some time, you know, so while just deploying one VM, you know, you just go faster for a POC type of engagement. So that's another good reason to use embedded.
It's a great point. Yeah, it really can speed up a POC and just like reduce the number of people that have to be involved, because, you know, it's like, hey, we're setting this up just for this quick POC. It's a VM. Doesn't, you know, most people can get access to that pretty quickly and then do an easy install. So I'm glad you put that up. Thank you. Cool. And then, you know, I think we're obviously describing a lot of it, but like, if you think about, you know, from your perspective, you know, the value that Replicated brings, like what, you know, how do you kind of rank in order those, the value that Replicated is providing to your company and to your role?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really helped us to focus on, you know, like focusing on our solution, you know, our core business. Like our core business is not really to, you know, develop solution to deploy our software, monitor our software, all of that. To me, it's more like the delivery aspect. Like it's not really what we do. So really, Replicated help us a lot in all those different aspects. Like we discussed delivery, like we didn't even talk about super bundle, but we use that every day when we have issues. Like
Right.
customers can easily generate a super bundle, send it over to us, and then we can look at the logs. Because that's one of the main challenge when you do self-hosted. How do you troubleshoot? So that's super helpful. The analytics, obviously, I told you about. So I mean, yeah, super valuable, and it's been a good partnership so far for the last couple of years, and excited to find more and more of use more and more of your product, Gran, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think we hope to build more and more of it to create, to solve, further and further problems for you. So I think you've been a really strong partner in terms of early design partner feedback. And, I think we're very lucky as a company to have ISVs as our customers, right? Because generally, I always call it cooking for chefs, right? Our customers know how to build great software and they can build anything. They just can't build everything. And so we're lucky to have, customers like GitGuardian, like you, Romain, who can give us really great feedback and help us, further advance our product and solve problems for you. So, I encourage anyone watching to be a design partner on features that we're developing. Let us know your pain points and really lean into engaging with the team, because hopefully you'll see that we do prioritize customers and we do prioritize, that feedback and trying to we work as an inspired kind of methodology company, right? So this is the idea from the Silicon Valley Product Group. We really value customer feedback and how customers value things that feeds directly into everything that we build and how we prioritize our time. So,
Yeah, totally.
cool. What are you most excited about right now? Like what's sort of, what are you seeing that's coming along that you're stoked about?
Yeah, I mean, we are doing a lot of things at GitGuardian. So there is a lot of new features coming on. Like for example, like we are gonna add the capability to scan secret in Slack, and we're gonna do more like Jira Confluence, because the company when it started really focusing on the code, right? The code base. So everything in VC, anything in source code. But we are starting to, like look in other places, and that's really exciting because it brings, different challenges to resolve and offer more broader capabilities to our solution. So that's really cool things we're adding. I think the first release for scan on self-hosted, it's been available in the SaaS for a few months already, but the self-hosted version always have a little lag between
Sure.
what we ship in on the SaaS.
Allow it
Because
to
we
bake a little bit, right? You kind of like get
Yes,
a little of that experience with the SaaS first. I love that. That's great.
yeah, they really help us to soak like the feature for X number of weeks, for example, until like we stamp it ready to ship on customer premise, right? So it's
Yeah.
more validated, quality is better, and all that good stuff. So yeah, and then like we are also looking into selling more in government type of like like DoD or other US government type of customers, and those are definitely gonna go self-hosted because this is the way it goes, and
Yeah.
so that's the partnership we have with Replicated is gonna help us a lot. Like I didn't mention it, but we also use for a few customers the air gap functionality,
Mhm.
being able to kind of like get that bundle to a customer, and so they can download it, install it, and we don't have to deal with the whole air gap type of delivery problem you can face.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to be toward the end of the year. We're going to have to have more of those, hopefully, type of customers. So that brings interesting challenges.
Yeah, that does. There's with
Put it
more
this way.
controls and more compliance, we really try to make sure that we're partnering there. So lots of, we've heard this from a lot of customers. And so we're looking at, I think we've really dramatically reduced, basically taking our CVE count down to 0 by using the Wolfie base images, which has been great. That was a challenge that we had just because there's just a lot of CVEs that float out in the world, and mediums and lows that are just hard to fix. And so the Wolfie stuff really kind of squashes a lot of that. And then additionally, looking at different, STIGs and NIST and all these other requirements that customers end up having, and trying to make sure that we're at least partnering to provide, what we can do, what can't be done, how to think about those things. So.
Yeah, we actually recently as well, we partner with ChainGuard to enable that zero CV type of, you can ship with zero CVs or as little as you can. And yeah, it's been great. But yeah, totally, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's exactly we use the open source stuff, but I think we also worked with them a little bit commercially. So, cool. Romain, anything else you want to add before we keep going and move on?
No, I'd just like to, thank the team. You guys have helped us a lot the last few years. So, I want to, acknowledge that and really thank you and the Replicated team for all the support and the great work you guys are doing for us.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your partnership as well. All right. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Bye.